Dealing with people can be quite problematic when you suffer with anxiety. I know this. I've had to deal with rather difficult people while in my recovery state. Not quite completely cured of anxiety, still having little niggles here and there, and having to deal with very difficult people. And we all know how that can be. It can be difficult. It can. Um, some examples. For instance, I was walking down a high street one day with my partner, and this disgruntled man or deranged man approached me from out of nowhere, it seemed, and he got right up into my face, and I'm just like you, I'm just, I'm just trying to mind my own business, and he's right up in my face, and someone with anxiety like myself, you don't have the same composure as your run of the mill average Joe. You tend to go into, you know, catastrophe mode right away. Um, and that can be very debilitating, can't it? Because you sort of seize because your muscles get really tense, and then, you start to feel exasperated, and then those symptoms can come into play, which you really hate, which again leads to a general feeling of immobility, as if you can't move. So, if any confrontation was to uh, escalate into a physical assault, you would feel quite helpless. And this is something that can fuel agoraphobia and the like. But what you need to realize is that, these scenarios that you construct, these catastrophic scenarios, they're not going to happen. And in this instance, that which I'm describing, they didn't happen. And you're more than capable of handling yourself. You are. You are from past experiences. So, yeah, this guy got up in my face, and it was a busy street, and there was someone behind me who saw this guy approaching me, and he just called out to the guy, what you doing, mate? What you doing? And I was able to just like raise my arm a bit like this to try and distance myself. And the guy was obviously just a crazy homeless guy or something, perfectly harmless. But yeah, I didn't like how I handled that because I was with my partner at the time, and she could see that I was anxious about it. And again, that's another thing, because that factors in, because that can hurt your pride, which is more important than any anxiety. You're like, well, wait a minute, I'm a man. I'm supposed to be able to handle this. This kind of thinking's good, because this kind of thinking's healthy and natural, and it's good to have on your way to recovery, to have a sense of humour about these kinds of things too. So, yeah, that happened, and then, I felt quite upset about it, but my partner was understanding, and yeah, that was alright. And then there was another episode um, earlier today, even, when I was saying goodbye to a friend at the train station, and my mum had pulled up to pick me up. Well, there was a driver behind my mum who was like beeping the horn and like revving their engine and stuff instead of just driving past her, you know. So I was quite calm and cool about it at first. I just thought to myself, well, these things happen. And I kind of gestured to the guy, sorry, as I jumped in the car. But as I jumped in the car, the man revved his engine again, and that upset me, And so all the, there's an adrenaline rush, and you start to feel your heart might be going, or your digestive system, and something might be playing up. Maybe there's a palpitation in there. And I just, I allowed that to take control. And so I says to my mum, I says, oh, just drive, this is unbearable, let's just get out of here. And, she drove away, and, I didn't even have the time to put my seatbelt on because of the restriction in the muscles. And you see, that's the kind of behaviour that you condition yourself into through practice and repetition. That kind of season of the muscles, the feelings that happen that you just want to stop, so let's get yourself out of that situation. That's the kind of mentality you need to break down, because nothing external causes that really. The real cause is internal. The real cause is the way you think. Okay, it's the way that you interpret the external uh, influence. For instance, that person revving their engine, they were just a jerk. They were perfectly harmless, and I could have just got into my car, put my seatbelt on, and been like my mum and just made a little comment like, "Oh, some people," and got on with my day. But I allowed it to really upset me and get me to a point where I just felt really uncomfortable, and it made me angry as well. And sometimes you can lash out at people when you get that anger, because you're angry about feeling anxious that happened, and so sometimes people round about you just become lightning rods for that aggression, and that's something that you need to understand is unhealthy as well. It's not good for relationships, and it's something that you can master and overcome just by accepting that, oh, this is happening. These feelings are happening because that's just the way humans are wired. When we feel a threat, we get all this adrenaline, and it can sometimes manifest as anger. So just with a little contemplation and meditation and relaxation, you can overcome that. So yeah. So how do we beat this? Well, don't give it don't give it any control over you. Don't give it too much credence at all. Don't give it any credence. Continue on with your day. Just let it pass, let it blow away, and continue to work on things. Now, right now, I'm in between jobs. I have some volunteer work lined up in a career that I'm trying to get into. I'll share more and be less. Uh, what is it? What is it? I'm not being passive. I'm being. I'm not being completely transparent right now with my goals and ambitions. But we will as we build a subscriber base. Right now, I'm sitting on one subscriber, so we'll see where we go. But yeah. So what I would do, to give you an example, is I would focus on that. Check my emails, perhaps write a few more emails. I quite happen to like painting, and my partner would like a painting of her cat. So I was thinking of doing a rather interesting painting of a large canvas, and I was going to use the colours of her living room, which is where the painting will be hung, and I'm going to use these colours to create this really interesting painting of this cat. So purples, pinks, greys, greens, golds and browns are all colours that feature in the living room, and so they're going to feature in this painting of a cat. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out, and that's something that I can spend a lot of time thinking about. Also, I noticed that I don't have a lot of confidence with mathematics, so I'm spending some time now just doing math problems in my head and studying math problems and looking into algebra and all these kinds of things, because I know I'm more than capable of doing it, but I've always had this anxiety about math. Whenever the teacher would put me on the spot and ask me about mathematics, I would kind of freeze up and my mind doesn't really function. I just kind of think to myself, oh, numbers, I can't really grab them. No. And that's all anxiety too. You need to build your confidence. You need to demonstrate to yourself with your actions that you're completely capable of doing these things, of doing math problems, and of going out and living the life you want to live. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, a thought came into my head: William, you're going to be worried. You're going to be worried tonight. And that thought just rattled round about my brain until I got really uncomfortable. And then the next morning it was still there. And I thought to myself, oh no, is this going to stay with me now until I'm, a mess? So I said to myself, no, what I need to do is demonstrate with my actions that I am confident and that this thought has no power over me. And you will be surprised just how amazing you will feel when you do that. Because ultimately, it is all about building confidence. And if you listen to thoughts, and if you let those thoughts control your actions, you you concede confidence. You recess into yourself. But if you act confidently, for instance, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get on the public transport. I'm going to get on the bus where there's people around me, and I'm going to go out onto those streets, you know, and because I'm a country boy, but I live in Birmingham, for in England, you know, and it's a big built up area, and it can be quite different. It's a right change of scenery for someone from the country. So going out can be a little bit intimidating if you have anxiety, but no, I don't give in to that. I'm out and I'm enjoying it. You know, people are generally lovely, and so it's good to get out and be around them. I mean, I've met people in Birmingham who are just like family to me now because I went out and I've you know, been sociable. People speak to you, you speak to people. Very comfortable. So that's what I did when I had this thought. I decided this thought's trying to get me bedridden again with worry. Not gonna happen. So I went out and yeah, I had a great time. Went to the shops and I convinced myself, hey, you have the confidence to do this. And it completely undermines the anxiety because you're looking for places to things to ascribe the fear to. You're like, oh, maybe the fear's out there, maybe the fear's internal, maybe to be honest, it's just the fear, which is a cyclical thing, which is completely breakable just by again building your confidence. There's something I want to get into more detail about is crutches, emotional crutches, crutches you need to feel comfortable. So a lot of us will keep a phone on us, won't we? We'll keep a phone on us so we can call people to help us. Now, I'm not saying throw your phone away. You need your phone. Your phone's a good practical tool to have these days. But, you know, you'll know that there's someone on your phone that you can call that makes you feel better. Well, what I do is I'll take my phone out with me and I know that there's people I can call to make me feel better. But I see that as a complete last resort because I know that as soon as I call someone to make me feel better, first of all, they're not the one making you feel better, really. You're making yourself feel better. And you're kind of, people become tools to you when you suffer with anxiety because you become quite, and it's not a put down, you know, it's just, you know, it's part of the furniture of it, but you can kind of use people instead of seeing them as the valuable people that they are. You use them as crutches and stuff, so they don't really help you by virtue of the fact that they're really helpful. No, you just use them as a crutch. You know what I mean? They're just your panic assistants, so to speak. And you know, I don't mean to make that sound insensitive, but what I'm trying to encourage you to do is feel confident. You don't need to talk to anyone. You are your own source of comfort in this world, and that is a powerful thing to understand. You are the confident one, you are the powerful one, you are the strong one. You might not feel it right now, but you are these things. And that's not I'm not trying to encourage you to have delusions of grandeur. I'm just trying to let you know that you have everything that everyone else has. You're not less than other people. In fact, you can be more than they are. No, delusions of grandeur. No, but you can feel really comfortable in yourself, especially in overcoming anxiety, because you've really explored the horizons and the length and breadth of your mind when you've come through an anxiety condition, and it makes you more empathetic and it allows you to read people better and just to, you know, be an all-round well-balanced person. You know, when you can take control and you learn what it is to overcome something like this, then wow, that is a powerful, powerful thing. Then you can use, you know, that creative intellect of yours, and you can take that focus away from yourself and put it into these things that you love, you know, such as your relationships and your hobbies, whether it's painting or photography or poems or acting or editing or whatever it is you might be interested in, mathematics, English literature, physical activities. Because that's another thing, you can sometimes undermine your confidence to participate in physical activities because of the way physical activity exerts the body, and it can kind of remind you of an anxious state. Well, that's easily overcome, and we'll get into that as well. But I hope this has been useful for you. You know, so basically, to recap, just need to divert your mind onto positive things, build your confidence, and demonstrate to yourself with your actions that you are a confident person, that you have the capacity to function as everyone else does, because you are no less than anyone else. All the best.